Thank you, Anya. A great pleasure to be here with you and also with this very distinguished panel. I used to be based in India for the Financial Times, 2001 to 2006, and I mention that because those were the years where India really sort of changed on the global stage. It had had its nuclear tests in 1998 under the Vajpayee, the previous BJP government. Then 9/11 happened, and that old Indian complaint that the United States hyphenated India with Pakistan, that's sort of withered away in successive administrations from Clinton through Bush, through Obama, Trump's first term, Biden, really stuck to that idea that India, is a power in its own right, and that we want India to succeed because it's the only real possible natural counterbalance to China. There's no other conceivable country that could play that role. And so the United States practiced what I think one or two scholars have labeled strategic altruism. What is good for India will serve America's purposes. Now, I mention that because in the last few weeks, as Anya in her introduction said, there was this India-Pakistan 4-day war after a terrorist attack by a Pakistan-linked group in Kashmir. And Donald Trump, claims, I think more than a dozen times now, to have been the one who ended this war. And he's offered to mediate the Kashmir dispute between India and Pakistan. And so in Indian minds, I think quite understandably, they're feeling there's a rehyphenation going on. And you've had statements by the likes of Narendra Modi and Jai Shankar, India's foreign minister, denying this. So I'm going to start with Sharia. A question to you, Sharia, and Sharia is, a good person to ask this question, not just in your own right, I mean, with your own think tank in Delhi, a fact that you're a member of the BJP, the ruling party. But I should also mention, your dad has been, Ajit Doval has been Narendra Modi's long-standing national security advisor. I'm asking you, though, not to channel your dad's views. Has this caused Indians a little bit of angst, a little bit of sort of reappraisal of whether the United States is with them?
Well, I think it has created a little bit of, let's say at best, a bad taste in the mouth, because India had started perceiving its relationship with the United States as far more strategic. But we don't see that there is much substance in that, in the hyphenation of India versus Pakistan. They are not two comparable entities. And therefore, while it may, in the short term, may suit American interests also to hyphenate the same, it's not a fair comparison. It's not a hyphenation that will stand the test of time and capabilities. So we just got to let it pass and get on with the job of India-US strategic engagement on a medium to long-term perspective. Okay,
I mean, let me pick up Sachin with you. And I'm not going to go on mentioning famous fathers, but when I was based there, Sachin's dad, Rajesh Pilot, one of the rising stars of Indian politics, very tragically died young. Sachin is a rising star. Well, you've risen, but you continue to rise of Indian politics. Congress party, opposition Congress. Sachin, Prime Minister Modi was there at the G7 in Canada. Trump had to leave early because of the Iran situation. But Trump said to Modi, with whom he'd had a bilateral scheduled in Canada, please drop in via the White House on the way back. And Prime Minister Modi decided not to. And one of the reasons he decided not to is because Trump had scheduled a one-to-one lunch between him and Azim Munir, who is the head of the Pakistan army. And I cannot remember for the life of me. I think Sumit tells me there is one other example, but I couldn't remember for the life of me an instance where the United States president met with the head of the military of a foreign power one-to-one. And so what did that do in terms of the question I posed to Sharia? Your sort of faith and trust in where US-India relations are going under this administration?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me here. At the outset, let me just state that both India and the US have a relationship that is beyond one administration or one government. We have a long-standing bilateral relations, and it suits both countries in terms of the values we espouse, the things we stand for, or we fight for. That goes beyond a government, a leader, or a administration. Having said that, it's really not in my control who the US president has lunch, breakfast, or dinner with. That's frankly his choice. But in the context of what happened between India and Pakistan, some of you may not know this, but more than 24 Indian tourists were killed in cold blood in front of their families by asking their name and religion, and then killed in cold blood. Now, that, for all us Indians, was an act of terror and an act of attack on the Indian sovereignty and integrity. Now, while other nation states, the big ones, have the right to respond or right to do preemptive strikes when they have quote-unquote credible evidences, I think we as a nation, as a country that believes in peaceful existence and democratic values are within our right to respond adequately only at the terror infrastructures that exist, documented, exist. So we did what we had to do. I think the armed forces did a fantastic job. What happened post that, like you mentioned, Ed, is very, very disconcerting because President Trump, not just a dozen times, 14 times has claimed that he was the one who got the ceasefire done. In fact, for the first time ever, US president actually announced the ceasefire way before it had actually materialized. That raises many, many questions. But I think we stand our ground. The Indian people, the interest of our country remains foremost. And whatever may happen bilaterally between our neighbor and the US, that's pretty much up to them. We stand firm on what we believe, what's right for us, what we need to do, and we should persevere on that path.
Okay, Sumit, I'm sure you had a great father, but sorry I can't complete the triptych there. Let me ask, I mean, you're based here, and therefore you're neither Congress nor BJP. You're a very eminent scholar now at the Hoover Institution in Stanford. Trump has offered, and this he did in his first term, at a meeting, I believe, with Imran Khan, who's now in jail in Pakistan. But Trump has offered, again, more recently and repeatedly, to mediate the conflict over Kashmir between India and Pakistan. And I think perhaps misunderstanding or glossing over India's position, which there will be no third-party involvement or mediation. Do you think that this is something he's going to persist with? I mean, he is, you know, he sees himself as a great deal maker, and he sees a potential deal here. I mean, he did say the Kashmir dispute's been going on for thousands of years. It was 1947, I think, that it began. But that doesn't dampen his ardor to fix this and to be the third-party mediator. Do you expect to see this as a thorn in India-US relations?
Thank you, Ed. That's a vitally important question. Yes, I fear that this could become a thorn, especially if Trump persists in this vein. He does construe himself without much evidence, I might add, that he's a great deal maker in international politics. I frankly can't think of a single deal that has actually been consummated and that has actually produced meaningful results. Yes, there's the Abraham Accords, but those really have not addressed the fundamental issues that underlie the conflicts in the Middle East. They may be highly lucrative for certain individuals, but that does not address the fundamental problem that has long plagued the Middle East. And Trump continues to trumpet those accords, but they really don't amount to very much. Nevertheless, he has this belief that he is a superb, deft, adroit negotiator, and he can miraculously solve the Indo-Pakistani conflict. And as long as he persists along these lines, it will remain a burr in the saddle of Indian decision makers.